I always wanted to know, do people steal because they're like insecure about who they are as a person? Like, I've noticed that like people who steal, like they tend to like always think that like they have a facade of like self-esteem. But once you actually look a little closer, there's no self-esteem. I mean, it seems like it. They make a very convincing argument that they are very like they think highly of themselves and they believe themselves to be able to do things and they have achievements to support those beliefs and they like where their life is going or they have no problem with how life things are going in their life and um, they don't need people to validate their being or their life in order for them to feel valued members of society, right? Yeah, I gotta do something about that. I think it's so annoying. Oh, I hate being a human being and I have hair everywhere. I haven't been able to shave my armpits either because somebody stole all my razors and all my toiletries and I'm like, can you just return my things? Why would you just steal all of those? But yeah, I don't know why people do that. I know there's people who like steal and use it for like donations. So like the police in Canada do this quite frequently where they see people in the streets or like living at shelters and they plan on robbing them. They steal all their stuff and they give it away to shelter residents who like snitch on other people or like people they believe may need my things or may need people's things that also live in the shelters. And their justification is that they can just buy more stuff. It doesn't matter. It's just like they're just giving it away and I'm like, that's not what that is. And I'm speaking to suspect that they might have been raped when they were kids. Like, I think like a family member have either molested them or taken advantage of them sexually. And they've never really talked about that part and I don't think they've ever reported it. But I think those are the people that end up like working as a police officers and like in the government and I mean, they're seriously flawed people. I don't know who hurt them. I don't know what's wrong with them, but that's like the impression they give off, right? I don't know if it's true, but I'm pretty sure it might be. I don't know them personally. So, I mean, again, accusing somebody of like raping you and sexually molesting you and stuff are pretty heavy accusations. And I get that a lot of people can fake those accusations. I've had people fake those accusations regarding me too. So I know what that's like when a lot of people like, especially since when they're not very smart or they have like lower levels of intelligence, they can't really distinguish who's telling the truth and who's lying. Right? It's a riddle for them. It's like a puzzle and they need to like take time to think about it and solve it. Or they need somebody else to tell them, right, the answer. Here's a riddle, riddle me this. Question mark. But yeah, I actually don't know why they think those things are okay. But there they are doing those things, unashamed of the stuff that they're doing. And with the whole like read frequently, like actually my abnormal psych professors strayed from one professor who talked about narcissistic personality disorder tried to stray. Oh, she has narcissistic personality disorder. That's what that was. He was trying to prevent people from making the assumption or jumping to conclusions that people who have narcissistic personality disorder actually have very low levels of self-esteem, and he said that's actually not true. Not that all of them are the same, but he said they're actually like I think she asked him, is it true that they have like a facade of like self-esteem? They look like they think highly of themselves, but if you actually break down the barrier or like get to know them, break the ice with them, you'll find out that they actually don't know them or think of themselves very well and they don't like themselves very well. And he said that's not actually true. He said it may seem like that, and that's actually one of their like or tactic, like a social tactic they use to get people to go along with the stuff that they want to do. So that's kind of why it's like it might seem like that maybe at certain points of their life it was true, but he said that's actually not like a symptom or like a truth or like a core trademark of narcissistic personality disorder. Yeah, again, with narcissistic personality disorder, I actually don't have a PhD. I've actually have experience with people who have this disorder. Plus, I've talked to a lot of psychiatrists and therapists, and I have educational background in psychology. That's it. Like, I don't actually have like, like those professional training that actual psychiatrists have, because that's where I would go if I suspected myself to have mental health issues. But at the same time, like, apparently a lot of people don't even like to admit or can't even recognize that they have mental health problems, which is a huge stigma, right? It's a self-stigma. It's like they don't want to admit that they have problems, like they need to see a doctor. Like, to me, it's just as ridiculous as somebody who's like clearly bleeding and they got stabbed and they're like dying on the street, and I'm like, do you need me to call an ambulance? And they're like, no, I'm okay. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't want to like, cross that boundary of like forcing something on somebody. And also, like, they might not respond very well because clearly they're in panic mode. But I think at a certain point they should be able to be like, yeah, maybe I need to see a doctor about this. I hate people like this. They make it everybody else's job to make sure that they're okay. I mean, that's the whole mental health thing, right? They want to make sure it's always someone else's job to make sure they're feeling okay or they're doing well. And it's not, okay? It's not anyone else's job except for that person to make sure that that person's doing okay after a certain age. Just, no. But yeah, what happened? I forgot. Oh yeah, stealing. It's actually a mental disorder. Mental health concern. I mean, there can be criminals who steal. They end up in prison because there's no way to steal without actually leaving trails and mountains of evidence. Right? And again, like, this is kind of like where I think this is where the whole criminology and people's human rights activists and all that kind of people come in, and they're like, oh, like, you don't treat criminals, and this is why they're considered vulnerable populations, because they think it's something else, but controlling for the fact that it's not a mental health issue. Like, they think they have given rights to do something when they actually don't, and a lot of them do come from poverty or abusive or bad households, and it can contribute to their perceptions of reality or life, and it can limit their socialization circles, right? And coupled with all of those like social factors, it can lead to them committing crimes where they may not actually have a choice to commit said crimes, right? But I don't know, it's like a whole nother topic. I never studied this in school, so I don't even want to talk about it because it's kind of like, that's how I feel when I hear and see that kind of stuff being discussed. I'm like, yeah, that's my face. I'm like, stop it. I wonder if anyone else feels the same way.
Oh my God.
But yeah, why do people steal? I guess they don't really want to admit the problem is that they have issues. That's it. Like, they have problems unrelated to the theft, and they don't want to work on those problems. And oh my God, Preston, sorry, you can just walk over him. It's fine. I'm not